राधे राधे।
एकस्मिन् वने श्रृगालः बक च निवसतः स्म।
वेरी गुड। रहते थे।
स्म. Thank you for the wonderful session, Vijayaji and Pranayji. And welcome everybody to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. Hope you had a wonderful day or having a great start to your day, depending upon where you're joining us from. So we will continue on our journey of Bhagavad Gita that we are doing. And today we will come across a shloka, which is going to be Lord Krishna being a great master, he builds on the concepts layer by layer, and then he summarizes it like a good teacher does. So we will look at it today. Also, we will see a short video from Swamiji to recap some of the concepts that we have been talking about. So let's get started by invoking the blessings of God and Guru, like we always do. If you are new to the sessions, please do fill out the feedback tracker. We'd love to know more about you or hear from you. And also, if you can, raise your hand, come on video, ask questions, that will be great. So let me share my screen. We will get underway with today's session. So I'll share my sound. Just stop. Let me know when you're able to see my screen.
Yes, we can see now.
Okay, so let's get started by invoking the blessings from God and Guru, like we always do. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurudevo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. All right, so let's get started. You can tighten your seatbelts, and we are going to go on a very interesting journey, like we always do, right? This Bhagavad Gita journey that we are on. So I'm going to pick up this. We are on verse 4.23 today. Yesterday we covered 4.22. We are going to look at a quick video as well. So I'm going to recite it, and like always, you're welcome to follow along. Gata sangasya muktasya jnanavasthita chetasaha yajnayacharata karma samagram praviliyate. All right. So do we have anyone interested, volunteers who would like to recite? I see a few hands. So
Please go ahead, Sandhya.
Radha Sandhya, please go ahead.
राधे राधे गत संगस्य मुक्तस्य ज्ञानावस्थित चेतसः यज्ञायाचरतः कर्म समग्रं प्रविलीयते.
Very nice, thank you. See a couple of other hands.
Go ahead, Tarunji.
राधे राधे
Radhe Radhe.
गत्सङ्गस्य मुक्तस्य ज्ञानावस्थितचेतसः यज्ञायाचरतः कर्म समग्रं प्रविलीयते.
Very nice, thank you, Tarunji. Today I see at least 3 co-hosts raising their hands. So very nice. Please go ahead, Pallaviji.
Radhe Radhe. Happy Ganesh Chaturthi to everyone.
Ganesh Chaturthi.
Gat Sangasya Muktasya Jnanavasthita Chetasah Yajnyayacharatah Karma Samagram Praviliyate.
Wonderful, very nice. Thank you, Pallavi. Amrutavani ji, please go ahead.
I'll go after Riyaji.
Sure, Riya ji, please go ahead.
Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Gata sangasya muktasya jnanavastita chetasah yajñāyācarata karma samagram praviliyate.
Wonderful, very nice,
Thank
Riya
you.
ji. Amrutavani ji, please go ahead.
Samji?
All right, Sam ji, please go
Okay,
ahead.
I'll do the last.
Radhe Radhe.
Let's please.
Tat sangasya muktasya jnanam sishta chetasa yajñaya charataha karma charata karma smagram praviliyate. Sorry, I went in the back. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Yes, Amrutavani ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, everyone. Gata sangasya muktasya jnanavastita chetasah yajñāya charatah karma samagram praviliyate. Thank
Very
you.
nice, thank you. So let's get started. So in this, Lord Krishna is saying they are released from the bondage of material attachments and their intellect is established in divine knowledge. They who they. So in the continuum or the continuity of the shlokas that we are doing, where we are, I'll try to summarize that, right? In this shloka, Lord Krishna is actually summarizing last few shlokas. We'll see how. And then this is, since they perform all actions as a sacrifice to God, they are freed from all karmic reactions. So this is the end game. We need to free ourselves up from all the karmic reactions. And we have been talking about how do we do karmas which are non-binding, which are not further binding us to this world or adding to our karmic backlog. So this is the whole idea of our karma yoga. And then let's do a quick check. So let's get started with today's session. So by the way, happy Ganesh Chaturthi to all of you. I know it's a very auspicious time of the year. So happy Ganesh Chaturthi. Now, Ganesha is Lord of Wisdom. Now, I want to tell you something about Lord Ganesha. See, it's all because of Lord Ganesha we are able to benefit from the writings of Bhagavad Gita. How did it happen? When Ved Vyasji, he was looking at reciting all the verses of Mahabharata, he needed somebody who was worthy enough to write that. Okay, so he said Ganesha is the most apt person because he's the Lord of Wisdom. He's the one who will be writing it. And it has about close to 1 lakh shlokas verses in Mahabharata. Now he put a condition when he said that Ganesha said, all right, I'm going to write for you, but then you are not going to stop. You are going to keep speaking non-stop, and then I will write it. So Vedvya said, all right, came on. But then I will also impose a condition. You will not write anything without understanding it. So he kept on speaking and Ganesha kept on writing. Okay, that is the wisdom of Ganesha. And in between, when Vedvyas had to take a bit of a break in between, then he has put certain Kut shlokas in Mahabharata. Kut shlokas mean even Ganesha had to think a little bit, ponder upon it before writing it, because the condition that was imposed was he has to understand and then only he can write it. So he had to think, and then he would basically take a restroom break, drink water or whatever. Okay, that is how he managed getting it done. And as the legend goes, I think the pen through which he was writing, the feather, so to say, broke in between. And then Ganesha, he did not want any interruption in the work. And it is said that he took one of his tusks off and used it as a pen. That is why another name for Ganesha is Ekdant as well. So nevertheless, so let's get started. Ganesh Tattva is an eternal Tattva. He is God. He is one of the Pancha Tattvas, as we have spoken about in our sessions previously as well. And Ganesh, commonly, is known as a child of Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati. But then, if I tell you that when they married, they worshipped Ganesha at that time as well, right? It sounds a little absurd. How can they worship the kid who is yet to be born? But Ganesh is a eternal tattva, and it is worshipped because it is very auspicious to start any new work if you take blessings from Lord Ganesha. As well as he's also called Nirvignam Kurume Deva. He removes obstacles. Now the wives of Ganesha is Riddhi and Siddhi, right? Wealth, prosperity, and all the intellectual and spiritual powers that you have. And then the sons of Ganesha is Shubh and Labh, auspicious and profit. And then of course, so complete package you get, right, when you worship Lord Ganesha. And of course, laddus are a bonus, right? If you like modaks and laddus and all that stuff. So with that, let's get started. Our first segment is the appetizer segment. We say soul soup segment. So what do we have? Because we spoke about Lord Ganesha, who's the Lord of wisdom. I picked up an interesting verse I came across. So here is a balance. On one side, you put pound of knowledge, and the other side, you put ounce of wisdom. So that's the saying goes, an ounce of wisdom is worth more than a pound of knowledge. So knowledge is theoretical until it becomes wisdom. It's when it becomes realized knowledge that is much more powerful than having all the theory and the knowledge in your head. A pound of or ounce of wisdom is more powerful than a pound of knowledge. Also, it is said that the biggest divide or the biggest gap is between the theoretical knowledge and the practical application of it. That gap we struggle to bridge. But here we have an opportunity to understand not only the key concepts that Lord Krishna is telling us. He spoke 5,000 years ago, which have withstood the test of time. They are eternal principles, but also use our day-to-day lives, our professions, our personal lives, and the dealings that we do around and the situations that we encounter as a laboratory to test these concepts. And when we test these concepts, that knowledge becomes wisdom. And that is much more powerful as opposed to simply acquiring knowledge, right? That doesn't help much. Topping Kahoot quiz is good, but if it is supplemented with wisdom, that is even better, right? Otherwise, all the knowledge in this world amounts to nothing if it is not converted into realization. Otherwise, it is the same as that parrot story, right? There was a parrot who was told that a hunter would come, he will lay the trap, don't fall for it. The parrot said, all right, hunter will come, he'll lay the trap, don't fall for it. After a while, the hunter comes, the parrot is saying, hunter will come, he'll lay the trap, don't fall for it. Hunter lays the trap, he falls for it. And while he's being carried away by the hunter, he's still reciting, the hunter will come, he'll lay the trap, don't fall for it. What's the point? So acquisition of knowledge is 50% of the battle. The remaining 50% is to start putting it into practice and making it wisdom. So this is our soul soup segment. Now let's get into the... Okay, so we'll start today's session with the short video clip. I wanted to show you to recap the concepts, and then we will get deeper into what we are going to talk about in today's session on this shloka. So let me know if you're able to hear the volume. So is the volume okay?
Yes.
How beautifully Lord Krishna explains the science of work. He is revealing to us the consciousness in which we should engage in work. And the consequence will be, you will be completely free from stress, from anxiety, apparently doing everything. From within, you will be doing nothing. So he says that, look, the saints, they put in their efforts, and then whether the results are positive or negative, they remain contented. So simple. The results are not in our hands. If we become attached to results, we will experience anxiety. Isn't that what happens? My child should be like this. My child should do that. Well, if it was in the parents' hands, every parent's child would be a Shravan Kumar. But unfortunately, it is not in the parents' hands. So all that the parents can do is raise the children. And then whatever the results, learn to accept. Content with whatever gain comes on its own. Now, having put in their efforts, they say, look, whether there was success or failure, it was probably the will of God. Let us have faith that whatever the Lord does is for our good. With that attitude, the tension, the anxiety vanishes. And the second piece of wisdom to bring to bear in this is that the world is full of dualities. In this world, there are always contradictory things. The same bush which has the beautiful rose flower with its soft and gentle and aromatic and colorful petals, it also has the thorns. Now the flower, people put it on their coats. Pandit Nehru used to put it and everybody would praise. Now if somebody puts thorns on their coat, people will say, what's wrong with him? It is the same plant, but there's such a huge difference between one part of it and the other. Likewise, this whole world is full of dualities. Lord Ram himself was the prime example.
What's the difference between a child that gets into a top tier school versus a lower tier school? Trust me.
The day before it was announced, Vasishji actually said, I will break the news to Ram. And he went and told Ram that your coronation is to happen tomorrow. Today you spend in austerities, etc. So the preparations were being made for a very pompous ascension of Ram to the throne. And overnight everything changed. He went off into the jungle. Now, if something like that had happened to us, we would have been so dejected. Some people go into depression. So many people, they keep lamenting over it. But these dualities come in the lives of saints as well. Have you ever heard of saints going into depression? They are also human beings like us. Why doesn't it happen to them? Because they accept the reality of the world. When the sun rises, you know it's going to set. So when it sets, you don't make a big deal out of it. I was so attached to the sunlight. Why has it now gotten snatched away? And likewise, when somebody is born, you know the person is going to die one day. When saints experience somebody's death, they say, you know, it was to happen. They make terms with it. They accept the reality of it. So likewise, in this world, there will be success and failure. You will get fame and infamy. Praise will come your way and criticism will also come your way. So now how to handle this situation alike? Don't make a big deal. Don't take the world too seriously. As somebody said, you're not going to come out of here alive in any case. Why take it so seriously? Once a thief entered the house of Kaka Hatrasi. It was night time. So the thief was looking for something to steal and Kaka Hatrasi's sleep broke. So he picked up a lantern. You know, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, lanterns would be there. So he started walking behind the thief with the lantern. The thief said, what are you doing? I have come to steal in your house. And this is the first time that somebody is walking with a lantern behind a thief. Kaka Hatrasi said, look, in the daytime, I never found anything in my house. You have come to search for at night. Where is the hope of you getting anything? So I thought I'll help you out. If you do come across something, if you do discover it, we can share it 50-50. Likewise, if somebody says, oh my God, this happened, you are taking the world too seriously. I am reminded of that couple that went. They were encouraged to go for the first time to the race course. So their friend took them and he said, take some money with you. They took $2,000 to try their luck. And they understood how these races are happening. They started betting on the different horses in the different races and kept on losing until they had only $2 left. So they went back. The $2,000 had gotten depleted to $2. The next day, the husband had this inspiration. He told his wife, let me go once again. I'm taking the $2. Wife said, all right, go. He took the $2 with him and he bet it on one race. The horse won. It multiplied and then again multiplied. He was having his lucky day. His money increased to $57,000. Now he was walking home with $57,000. He was feeling the seventh heaven. On the way was a casino. So he got this inspiration that, you know, here's your chance to multiply it further. He walked into the casino and he had to put so he put all of it on lucky for some, number 13. So it spun around and it came to 14. So he lost everything. He went back home. His wife said, what happened? He said, I lost the $2. Come to think of it, that is what we will lose in any case. Provided we understand that the happiness I am seeking is not here. That happiness which will truly fulfill me is inside. And it will come by becoming a better person, by going closer to God. So in the victory and defeats of the world, it is not as important as I think it is going to be. That maturity must come within us. If we think that the worldly objects are going to give me happiness, it is natural when they get snatched away, we will experience lamentation.
Charlotte was a normal 7-year-old child. She was roller skating, climbing trees, biking.
The Buddha, we all know, he renounced his entire kingly opulence, his royal life and luxuries, and went off as a renunciate. He entered the kingdom of his father's friend. So his father, who was the king, his friend was a king called Prasenjit. So King Prasenjit saw little Gautam there, and he tried to convince him to return to his life. And the Buddha said, "Uncle, answer one question with all your sincerity. This entire kingdom of yours, all the opulence, all the fame, all the power, has it brought you even one full day of complete happiness?" King Prasenjit had to lower his eyes. See? Like the people in India, they think that the Indians living in USA must be really rolling in happiness. So you tell me, who came over from India to the USA, have you experienced true happiness even on one day? Like King Prasenjit, you will also have to lower your head. That is the reality of the worldly happiness. Then why hanker so much? Just do your duty and be contented. So the Bhagavad Gita doesn't say stop working. Bhagavad Gita says focus on your efforts and do them in divine consciousness. In that manner, you will not be bound by your works. There's a beautiful example here of Arthur Ashe. How many of you have heard the name Arthur Ashe? You know, Arthur Ashe was the first black to win the Wimbledon title, and the first and only black to win the US Open and also the Australian Open. So he won all the 4 Grand Slam titles. A few years later, he was donating his blood and he got AIDS. And later on, he was about to die from AIDS. So that Arthur Ashe was asked by reporters that, how do you handle this situation? Don't you feel a grudge against God for doing this to you? Why me, God? Why did I get this AIDS? Arthur Ashe's attitude was so positive. He said, you know, there are billions of people in this world. A few 100 million children start playing tennis in junior school. I was one of them. At that time, I did not say, why me? Out of those children who start playing tennis, a few thousand around the world become professional tennis players. I was one of them. I never said at that time, God, why me? Out of that, a few hundred enter the international tennis circuit. I was one of them. I never said, God, why me? 32 players entered the Wimbledon. I was one of them. I never said, God, why me? 4 entered the semi-finals. I was one of them. 2 reached the finals. I was one of them. 1 won the Wimbledon, and it was me. I never said, God, why me? Now, if for no fault of mine, I've got AIDS, why should I complain, God, why me? This is a very, very spiritual attitude to have. So we all have to realize that in our life, there will be roses and there will be thorns. The sign of spiritual progress is not that there are no thorns in your life. The sign of spiritual elevation is that you can see the thorns and the roses, the praises and the criticism, the heat and the cold, the comfort and the discomfort with equal vision. That makes you free from duality.
All right. So hope you enjoyed this powerful lecture from Swamiji. This reiterates, reconfirms all the stuff that we've been talking about all this week. So hopefully it helps take away some of those concepts, you know, more deep, that equanimity is the key. When we choose to ride an emotion on either side, that is not good for us. Not only it is a binding karma, but then it is going to take us further, make us further entrenched in this world, with an understanding that there is happiness and misery actually in this world. What is that song was there, right? Har ghadi badal rahi hai dhoop zindagi, chhaon hai kahin, kahin hai dhoop zindagi, har pal yahan equanimity se jiye. So that is the key message here. Okay, we need to be equanimous regardless of what is happening around us. And equanimity, when we do, it makes us very dear to Lord Krishna. Because when we practice equanimity, Now we are talking, God says. Okay, when we are simply choosing to ride a, swinging wildly on either side like a pendulum does, then what's the big deal? Everybody does that. It is not only a binding karma, but it is also taking us further away from peace. It is counterintuitive, but this is how it works. All the spiritual principles, you just have to align to actually experience that. Next time it happens, see how the peace, you start getting closer to the peace and the bliss you were always looking for. Yes, Sandhya, go ahead. You had a question. Now I'm going to put it all together. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Just wanted to ask this: if one practices the attitude of gratitude, will equanimity be an result of that?
True. It's very true. These are the things actually, these all principles actually, they come together, converge. So when you have an attitude of gratitude, it's a great thing to have. The problem happens when we forget all the graces we have received. We don't have that prayer, what do you call that, an attitude of gratitude. We start taking things for granted, and we start focusing on that one thing that we don't have in life. That means that gratitude has slipped away completely. And now that particular thing that we don't have becomes the focal point of our life, and we are becoming bitter, resentful, and complaining in our head, oh my God, I don't have it. So very good point you brought in. Attitude of gratitude actually really helps have that equanimity or balance or a prayerful heart. And in fact, it is said that when you express your gratitude for things, right, not only in the world, but in spiritual realm, when you express gratitude, then you draw more grace rather than taking it for granted. So many things that we get in our lives, we forget that and we start focusing on that one thing that is not working for us in our life, right? Like negativity bias, so to say. Like you've got a whole whiteboard in front of you, but your focus will be on that small, tiny dark spot that you are finding out in between. So yes, attitude of gratitude is a great virtue to have. In general, having that gratitude is a very great, it's a symptom of a pure heart actually. Right? There is a saying in English which it's not the aptitude but the attitude that determines your altitude. An attitude of gratitude is a great one to inculcate actually. All right, so in this verse, Lord Krishna summarizes the conclusion of the previous 5 verses. Let's see how. So chapter 4 is what we are on. Shloka 18, 418, he started, Sayukta Kritsna Karma Krit. He says, although performing all kind of actions, they are yogis and masters of their actions. Okay. In 19, he said, Gyanagni Dagdha Karmanam, who have burned the reactions of work in the fire of divine knowledge. Shloka 20, he said, Naiva Kinchit Karoti Sir. Despite engaging in activities, they do not do anything at all. A karma concept came in. And then 21, he said basically, they incur no sin. 22, he spoke about they are not bound by their actions. Now, if it is not making sense, let me explain it to you clearly how that's going. 418, he brought in the concept of akaram, inaction, where he says, how do you do actions, same action, but how do you make it neutral, where it is not binding, right? This is the concept of akaram. Then the question comes, how can I not desire for self, right? Because the concept of akaram is you do it for the pleasure of God, right? Obviously, the question comes, how can I not desire for self? That is then explained by purifying the intention in the fire of knowledge. Then the question comes, what happens when we purify our intentions? Answer is given 420. Despite engaging in activities, they do not do anything at all. Because when you're doing it with purified intention, it is not binding at all. Okay. Then what happens to the actions to the body and senses in that case? Because you're still performing actions. Then says that every karma gets multiplied with 0. Okay, that is the whole concept. Then the question is, what quality enables such a karma? That is explained in the previous verse we spoke about, rising above the dualities, where you take failure and success, triumph and disaster, treat both of them as imposters, become neutral to them. So we have to rise above the dualities and maintain equipoise or equanimity. That is essentially what Lord is talking about. And then what is the key takeaway? The key takeaway is understanding that the soul is by nature the servant of God. That is essentially what he's going to talk about in 4.23. Okay, so we'll do a quick recap. Let's understand this. Action and inaction we spoke about, right? There are a lot of examples around it, how people are performing their acts. They're performing acts like a normal individual, right? You could be an IT professional, you could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, you could be a president, prime minister of a country, or a king for that matter. The actions, you will perform the same actions, but the motive behind your actions, the intention that you are bringing in, is going to be different around it. And there are examples, historical examples from our scriptures. These kings, they did the duties to the best of their abilities, and because their minds were not entangled in material desires, their actions were termed as akaram, or inaction. We have spoken about this concept in great detail, where we say even in the world, when there is a hit and run case, the judge tries to establish the intention behind that act. And only if it is proved there was a motive to kill somebody, or somebody was drunk, and it happened as part of negligence, then they are punished. And in this particular case, when it comes to what is your motive, God is seated within us. He notes that down, right? So he's the witness, he's the policeman, he's the jury, and he's the judge in this case. In the world, you have to have established that, and to from different angles to establish the intent. But in this particular case, God notes down your intention and gives you the result. Now, either it is a binding karma if you are doing it with an intention to enjoy it for yourself, or it is a non-binding karma if you are doing it for the pleasure of God. That becomes a karma. So this was the first concept that we spoke about. Then we went on to the next one, that the actions that you performed for the pleasure of your senses, right? They are binding. But when you do it for the loving service of God, so there are two kinds of action. One you are doing as a bhog, other is a yoga. Bhog is when you are catering to your senses. I want to enjoy it, all the sensual pleasures that we go for our own sake, then they become binding karma. But when we do the same activity for the pleasure of God, it becomes non-binding, purifying at that point. So then the selfishness starts getting nishkam, all that selfishness or the kamta that we carry starts becoming nishkam gradually. And then the karmic reactions, they start to burn. And this is the fire of divine knowledge. Then the next one was, it's not about detachment, is not that you should own nothing, but nothing should own you. So if you are a monk or a sannyasi, but you are contemplating on the world while doing meditation, you are still in the world. Doesn't work that way. On the other side, you may be a dude in a car, but you are least attached to that, right? And you may be contemplating about God or doing it as a pleasure of God, but you are least bothered about whether you are in a suit, all that stuff, or dressed up like a monk. Maybe your profession demands it, but if your consciousness is attached to God, that is the true detachment, right? So despite engaging in activities, they do not do anything at all. That is the key concept. Okay. So we don't go with the cosmetics. We don't go with the dress code. We don't go with how people look on the outside. While the world looks on the outside, God looks on the inside. What's going on in your mind is the key. And there's a beautiful story about Tavrit and Sugrit also, those two brothers who wanted to go for a Bhagavatam story in a temple. And as the luck would have it, it started raining heavily. And, Tavrit and Sugrit, the only refuge they could get was at a place which turned out to be a brothel. So they got stuck in a brothel. While they were going for Bhagavatam, they got stuck in a brothel. Now, Tavrit, after a while, he said, you know what? I'm not made up of mud. Basically, I'm not going to melt away in the rain. So let me just take my chance and keep walking towards the temple. And he braved the rain and walked towards the temple. Sugrit stayed there. Okay, he said, let me stay back there. So he reached the Bhagavatam, okay, in the temple. And while he was listening to Bhagavatam, he was thinking, you know what? My brother must be having a good time. He's back there in the brothel and I'm listening to the story here, but he must be having a good time there. And this brother who was in the brothel, he said, you know what? I could have done the same. I could have braved the rain. My brother must be enjoying Bhagavatam, and where am I stuck here? Now what happens? Both the brothers, they start walking towards each other, right? Because their mind was at the other place. And the lightning strikes and they both die. And the Yamaraj comes, the Yamaduts come, and Vishnu Doots come as well. So the Yam Doots, they look at Suvrit, who was in the temple, and the Vishnu Doots look for Suvrit, who was there. They said, no, there must be some mistake. I was at the temple, but this guy was at the brothel. He said, no, there's absolutely no mistake. You are where your mind is. Okay, not where you physically are. So this is how the process goes. So spirituality is all about cleaning our mind and letting, nurturing that garden and not letting weeds grow in it. So we are where our mind is, not what we are doing through our physical means or senses. So even when we are doing prayers, people do in India, they are very happy doing their 2-time puja. But if their mind is in the world, it's a multiplication with 0. On the other side, you might be doing your day-to-day work, but if you're doing it with the consciousness that you're doing it for the pleasure of God, that is real sadhana. And in fact, when you have one-on-one with God, when you sit, it's a good practice to at that time block out the entire world, because then we get the maximum benefit of it. Because if your mind is, what's going on, whether the pressure cooker whistle has already come up or the milkman has come, and all those things that go in our head when we sit on puja, actually it's a multiplication with 0. It doesn't work that way. So this is the key concept around detachment that we spoke about. Then further, we went on to 21, that akarma is basically when your act, the karma is multiplied with 0, because you're doing it for the pleasure of God, right? When Hanumanji, he did the perform, his mind was doing it as a seva for God, right? So then even though he killed so many people, it was not counted as a murder. Same thing with Arjun. In Bhagavad Gita, he slayed millions of people through his arrows. But in God's book, nothing counted as a murder at all, because it was done for the pleasure of God. So this is how it works. On the other hand, if you do it for your own sake, it is basically a binding karma, and it could be sin as well. And then 22, we spoke about all these dualities. We have to, if we rise these dualities, it's like binding ourselves in shackles. But when we deal with it with equipoise, that's when we are doing non-binding karma and we are breaking the shackles. Okay, now you say, okay, I'm breaking the shackles, so what's the big deal? The big deal is that this mind of ours is our permanent accomplice, whether you like it or not. And this mind, the way we nurture it, the way we make it, the way we mold it, is going to be our permanent company in every lifetime. So if we don't work on it, if we choose to ride all these emotions, then we have to deal with it in next life as well. If we don't deal it with the next life or later part of our current life, then we have to deal with it in some other lifetime. If we don't deal with it, we have some other lifetime. So it's not like the homework is we can wish away our homework in our mind. We have to deal with it. And this dealing means it is the one which is troubling us, right? The mind is the one which torments us. All the kind of emotions that come and ups and downs and stuff like that. So spirituality is about improving the quality of our mind, cleansing of antakaran, so to say. That is the only agenda of human life. Rest all is self-created, right? So the swang or the enactment that we are endowed with in this life, we get implicated in it because we start taking it too seriously, right? Like Swamiji was saying, don't take things too seriously. You're not going to come out of it alive anyway. So it's like a stage you are performing. You're an actor on the stage, but now you have gotten into the character so much that you don't want to leave the stage, right? And you have started taking all the characters seriously. It's actually a drama that is unfolding. We are just an actor playing our role. And if we play it well, that's good enough, right? But we get implicated in it. We start taking our role too seriously, and we don't want to leave the stage, right? Thinking that this is our real life. So this is the concept. And then how do we, the reason that is happening is because now I'm going to talk about the key concept here. Now, the last shloka that we spoke about, it spoke about how do we get to the state of equanimity where we ride these emotions with proper understanding. Knowledge is important to understand. Why do we need to, when the why behind what we need to do is clear, then what becomes easy. And why we need to do that is because then we keep on riding these emotions, those will become our sanskars that we'll have to deal with in our future life. So it's like digging a pit for yourself that you have to climb over. The deeper you dig, the more work you are creating for yourself. It's a very simple principle, right? It's like you're given a holidays homework and you end up creating more for yourself. It's not very smart. So spirituality is not something which is optional. Actually, if you think about it, really think seriously about it, it's a mandatory thing for everybody, because if we don't clean up our homework, we'll have to deal with it. It's a matter of time. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So when we wake up, when we start understanding these principles, then let's start working towards ourselves, because there is everything to gain after that. Okay. Now these dualities have to be looked at in a perspective. Now let's move on to the key concept I wanted to introduce. We'll build on it tomorrow. Now, there is a difference between Gyan Marg and Bhakti Marg. I'll explain a little bit here. In Gyan Marg, you take a position or you take an approach where you say neti neti, you start discarding, right? It's like process of elimination. See, when we do the multiple choice questions, sometimes you don't know the answer, but you know what is not there and you eliminate those things, right? And then whatever is remaining is the answer. You reach that conclusion. So Gyan Marg is a little bit like that. So you start with, okay, am I this body? No, I'm not this body. Scriptures are telling us, because body is mine, something is mine, cannot be me. You keep contemplating on that. You go to the source. Am I this mind? No, I'm not this mind. So mind is rejected, body is rejected, intellect is rejected, ego is rejected. And finally, you come to the conclusion, I am divine soul, right? So that is how you start eliminating all that stuff. Bhakti is you go to the right answer. You start awakening it, okay? You start awakening it. You are a soul and you start awakening that soul. You start manifesting the true nature of that soul. And that is why, and you use all the faculties that are endowed to you to that end. You don't negate. See, you don't negate that this world is mithya. You don't negate. You do understand that you're not this body. Knowledge is always there. But then the activities that you conduct throughout the day or throughout your lives, using this body, these senses, mind, intellect complex, you dovetail it, you channelize it towards a direction that aligns with the true nature of the soul. And what is the true nature of the soul? It is this Bhakti Marg is awakening the soul, as opposed to rejecting things and then concluding that you are not neither this. So it's not about rejecting, but by awakening the true nature of soul. And what is the true nature of soul? It is actually given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's beautifully explained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said that Jiver Sarup Hoy Nityar Krishna Das. Basically, that means the soul is by nature the servant of God. If you understand this concept, you start doing things for the pleasure of God, it will awaken the true nature of soul. It's a very simple principle. Okay, that is why the concept of seva cannot be overemphasized. When you do sevas, because now you're doing something that is, you're not getting paid for it. You're actually started aligning to that principle. So it will start manifesting the true nature of soul within you. And all the things will start falling away by itself. You know, that this body-mind complex will start conquering gradually. Now, dedication of one's actions to God results from understanding that soul is an eternal servitor of God, like a hand-body relationship. When hand serves the stomach or the body, it automatically gets what it needs. And hand on its own, if it tries to enjoy, it cannot. And that is our current position. We are trying to enjoy the world bereft of God consciousness, which is never going to happen. And those who are established in this knowledge perform all their actions as an offering to him and release from the sinful reactions of their work. This is the key concept. Now, this is how can we wake up our sleeping soul is what we were talking about. The job description of humans on earth, actually, I'm going to take a quick pause, is to awaken the soul. How do you awaken the soul? By aligning to its true dharma of serving the God. Now I'm going to take a quick pause. I know I covered a lot of stuff. We can have a bit of a discussion and then I'll build on this concept tomorrow. How does this process unfold? Okay, what are the things that we can build into our routine, which will help us awaken our true self? And when we awaken our true self, then, it basically you are progressing spiritually. And awakening the true self and the process itself will result in cleansing our mind and taking us closer to that happiness as well. Happiness is a direct result of a clear mind or a cleansed mind, so to say. If we are not happy, that means our quality of mind is bad. If we are do not have peace, that means we carry a lot of cleansing that needs to be done on our mind. So everything is a direct result of a purified mind. If we don't have Proper knowledge, that again means that our mind, intellect needs to be cleansed. So everything boils down to cleaning or cleansing our antakaran, so to say. And if we awaken our true self, which is our true dharma, basically understanding our constitutional position as a servitor of God, that will take care of all of these things automatically. Okay, any questions around it? How do we manifest, or how does this process unfold is something we'll take tomorrow. But happy to take any questions, because I know we covered a lot today. And very quickly today as well. Pin drop silencer. I heard another pin today. Yes, Keshavji.
Radhe Radhe, Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna, Radhe Radhe.
The story you narrated is very good, and your presentation is always excellent, awesome. The same story was narrated to me by my father like 38 years ago, but in a different form. That story went a little more deeper in the sense, here you mentioned about the two brothers. There I was told by my dad that one in a valley at the lower elevation was a temple, and one priest used to sit there, and on the upper elevation was a prostitute. And the prostitute was always thinking about the Pandit. Hey, he is good, he's enjoying life, what type of life I'm dealing with and all that. And Pandit was thinking all the time about the prostitute. A lot of people are going to him, and I'm God doing service for you, or very less people come here. So mind was different of both the people, and both face the same thing what you narrated.
True. Yeah, that's another story. I've heard that one as well. So thank you for calling that. Yeah, it's really where your mind is. You are where your mind is. Very true. Thank you so much, Keshavji, for bringing that. I think there's a saying, right? Also in Hindi was ek pate ki baat samjho, agar azmaoge jaisa man ko banaoge वैसा ही बन जाओगे. So point is, however our mind is, that is how we end up becoming. So this whole spirituality is a game of mind only. The day mind is sanitized, job is done. And human life is given to us to do that sanitization or cleaning, the cleaning job of our mind. That's all it is. And as part of that, we get implicated in this drama, or people that come around us, right? Different life. And then we start building our attachments to them. And then we start thinking of material thing as something that is going to give us happiness. And then we get attached to those kind of things, relations, objects. And this drama continues lifetime after lifetime. So Bhagavad Gita is telling us, just become an observer and learn to write these emotions. Understand these are all impermanent. And at the same time, when you are more in the equanimity side of things, and then you will get closer to peace, bliss, happiness that we are talking about. Now, the question is, how do we get to that? It's easier said than done, right? So there are certain things we can do on a day-to-day basis to have this kind of a feeling seep in, right? So when we start aligning to the processes of awakening our soul, everything else will fall in place. That's like a silver bullet. It's like you don't think, right? When you pop in a pill, you don't think that, okay, now it is mixing with my bile juice, and now it's becoming part of my blood, and now it's going to get to that particular part of my body, and now it is going to act. We pop in a pill and forget about that. It does its job. Similarly, when we start aligning to certain activities in our life, it will take care of all the things that we need. And that is something we'll talk about tomorrow. Yes, Sandhya, you wanted to ask? You had a question?
So happiness is a symptom of a pure soul.
Pure. No,
Right.
pure soul is always pure. Happiness is a symptom of a pure mind.
Pure
Soul
mind.
is always pure. Soul is
Right,
never
it's divine. Okay, cool. So can there be, like, if happiness is there, can there also be an element of ego somewhere hidden, which one may not be able to realize?
true. See, ego is something, it's very sukshma. So if you look at the hierarchy of how this whole thing unfolds, at the top is Purush, Param Purush. Then he glances at Prakriti, right? Prakriti starts unfolding, this creation, how it comes about. Through Prakriti comes Mahan Tattva. Through Mahan Tattva comes Ahamkar Tattva, right? That Ahamkar Tattva is the first thing. It's because through Ahamkar comes Panch Tanmatras, and this material world comes, right? Panch Tanmatras, Panch Mahabhut. So Ahamkar is, or the ego, that aspect is the first thing to come and the last to leave, even on this path of spirituality. It's not something you can get rid of it just like that, but you start putting it in perspective. So using this ego, you work on this ego until that ego is no longer there. You will still have a sense of I. You will not lose that, but that will be the last thing to go.
So how can someone like self-evaluate, like to what level, whether it is reducing or not? And
We can't. It's very difficult to do that. Only Guru can do that basically. But there are certain yardsticks, right? Again, on the path of spirituality. How much doership do you feel in everything that you do? That should reduce over time. How quickly you are able to deflect it to God, that it's only God who enabled me to do that. So those kind of symptoms we can do, but only God will know that. But this ego is needed to work on our ego, because using this ego, you'll work on that ego until ego is no longer needed. Like I gave this example of a thorn, right? If your thorn is stuck in your flesh, you use another thorn to take that flesh out. The other thorn out through the flesh. And then when that thorn is taken out, then you throw this thorn away as well. So using this ego, you will work on this ego, and then finally this ego will not be there, because that will be the last thing to leave. It will start diminishing over time, because you start feeling more as an instrument of God as opposed to taking credit for yourself. That would be the symptom you can intuitively feel. That's the only thing I can. But other than that, God and Guru would know that. It's very difficult to know it for self. But yeah, how much accolades you enjoy? Do you really crave for praises? Does criticism bother you? All these are signs of ego. Why criticism bothers us? Because we have an inflated ego. When you say, no, I don't have an ego. No, it's our pride talking. We feel, oh my God, what did this person say? How I am feeling humiliated, ashamed. All these things our ego is talking, right? It's rearing its ugly head. So if you don't have any ego at all, it's like whatever, God. So whatever your wish is, right? That is a very advanced stage. But to reach that stage, a lot of work has to go in before that. And we need a lot of grace from God on the path as well. And there's a line in that bhajan, de do aisi virah vedana mit jaye mam aham chetana. Aham, that part also melts away. There's no me at that point, but possibly an advanced concept, right, at this point.
So maybe can it be said that equanimity is also somewhat reflecting reduced ego, right? Yeah.
True. Because you are letting go of that enjoyment or the misery that it is happening to me kind of a deal, right? So yes, equanimity will take us closer to that and reduce our ego as well. So these concepts all converge actually, right? One will reinforce the other. So they are mutually reinforcing. Great point. Thank you for pointing that out. All right, I see Gaurav ji, a new hand today. Then we can get to Pratyusha and Monica ji as well. Gaurav ji, where are you joining us from? You had a question.
Hey, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing this. Really appreciate it. I'm joining from Seattle, and I'm joining it for the first time.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Good to see
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, good to see you too. Thank you. I have a question here. I keep on listening to all the Swamiji's videos and your videos and everything. So thanks a lot for everything. The question that I have is one from Swamiji's video, and the question is about what are the good karmas? Like, do we attain good through good karmas or through akaram? I mean, not doing any karam, which is a state of, you're doing a karma, but then you're doing it for the pleasure of God, so it's not like a karma in itself. But if that's the case, if we attain the God using a karma, then in one of the Swamiji's videos, Swamiji was saying that even the devtas want to be in human form, because human form is the only form which is a fruit-bearing form. So that little bit confused me, because on one side we are saying Devtas wants to attain human form because it's a fruit-bearing one, but at the same time we say that attainment of God is through a karma. So I'm definitely missing something here.
Yes.
So please enlighten.
Understood. I think you missed that entire series on Karam, Vikaram, and Akaram, and Karam, Akaram, and Vikaram. So those foundational, fundamental things, let me clarify a little bit more today. Karam is good karma that people do, right? So if you are helping people, you are a philanthropist, you are just being honest at your job, that is called Karam. Vikaram is when you do negative karma. Okay. So Karam will take you to celestial abodes. If you do good karmas, that will accrue meritorious deeds. If you accrue meritorious deeds, basically, that will take you to Swarg. If you do Vikaram, that is called negative karma, that will take you to nether regions or hellish abodes. When we hurt people, when we are bitter, when we are harboring negative sentiments, that takes us to hellish abodes. Or we are killing people and hurting them, either in act, deed, or thought. It could be anything. It takes us to hellish abodes. Then there is called akaram. Akaram is neutral karma. Akaram is karam yoga. The other definition for akaram is karam yoga, where you are doing it for the pleasure of God. Now let me give you an example. If you are giving food to somebody, you could be doing it with the sense that, you know what, let me show him in bad light, that how pitiable he is, and have basically doing it for your ego or to show somebody in bad light. That is called tamasic karma. Now you're giving food to somebody, you are doing it out of generosity, but you have a sense that I am doing it. That is called karam. That will take you to celestial abodes. And if you are giving food to somebody and thanking God, that thank you God for giving me this opportunity and making me an instrument to help somebody else, it is called akaram. That takes you to God. And if you go to celestial abodes, it is like a withdrawal only account. Like in bank we go, if you have a withdrawal only account, what happens when your money is over? Done. It's like going to a trip to Hawaii. When the hotel stay is over, you say, out, time to go. So that is what happens when you go to celestial abodes. So that is why in celestial abodes, you cannot do any deposits. And even those devatas, they want to come as a human so that they can make deposits and realize God by doing a karma for the pleasure of God. They don't have that ability. They can only enjoy the good deeds that they have done. They cannot add anything to it. Okay, that addition of the karma can happen, the deposits can happen only in Manushya Yoni, not in any other Yoni. The other accounts are only withdrawal only accounts. In Swarg, you will do withdrawals to enjoy. In Narak, you will do withdrawals, not withdrawals, but to exhaust all your, papas, so that you become neutral again and come back to end life. So that is how it goes. Hope it answered your question, Gaurav, but happy to help you, understand this concept a little more in detail offline as well, if you didn't catch some of these concepts. Gaurav, did it help, the answer?
Yeah, it really helped. I think, yeah, I was trying to unmute myself, but it says host doesn't allow that.
Karam is good karma, Vikaram is bad karma, and Akaram is Karam Yoga.
So when Devta says that they want to get the
because they cannot realize
fruit-bearing,
God, right? They cannot realize God.
right?
They can only enjoy, and they have to come back again in 8.4 million.
Right. So their fruit-bearing actually meant a karma, right?
Yeah, fruit bearing. When you say fruit bearing, they cannot do a karma there. They can only enjoy. For all the good deeds that they have done, they can only enjoy. They don't have an ability to go from Swarg to Golok. Let me put it that way. They can become an ant, pig, or a human after that. In fact, they say in Swarg, they have this, what do you call that, a garland of flowers, and when it starts becoming stale, that means the time is going to get up. Okay, anyways, we'll not get too into nitty-gritties, but yes, basically the devatas, they don't have an ability to realize God. So they have to come as a human to realize God. They can only enjoy the fruit of their actions when they are in Swargalok, nothing more than that. And that is why when people say Swargiya Shri this, it's not very smart. Okay, if they went to Swarg, they were not very smart, because they'll have to come back again. What's the point of going to Swarg
Right.
if it's a temporary place? So that is the whole. It is called a golden jail. Okay, this is essentially
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
it has been explained. Yeah. Thanks for asking that question.
Thank you.
Hopefully, it answered a few other things for other folks as well who might be new to sessions. Yes, let's hear from Monica ji and then Pratyusha. We'll get to you.
Go ahead, Monica ji.
Radhe Radhe. So Nitin ji, karm sannyas versus karma yoga. Now, when we are on the path of purifying our mind, in the path of karm sannyas also, we try and avoid stuff which can again dirty our mind, right? Like, let's say movies or some series which are not meant to be seen. So when we avoid all that, should we be avoiding people also? I mean, people who are not really kusang, but then they trigger you. So should we
You take a
let
call
them?
on. You take a
Okay.
call on that basically. See, it's like this. What is kusang actually? Kusang, if you go by strict definition, kusang is anything that takes your mind to worldly things.
Worldly things.
And it can come in a very subtle form, right? Now, if your bhakti is so paripakva that you can do Radhe Radhe, your chanting or your bhav is there, even though you might be in the midst of people, that's fine. But if some people can trigger you, or just by looking at them, it's like, oh my God, I have to deal with it. It's better to avoid it, right? Rather than lending them your mind space. So we need to see, it's like this. When the plant sapling is small, it has to be protected from wind, the rain, the goat, all that stuff. And once the sapling has formed up its roots and has started becoming a bit of a tree, then it is fine. So you take a call on that, how much of protection is needed and how much of exposure is needed. It's a very individual thing. But the key thing is to protect your bhavs and not lend it to things which could have been directed to something spiritual, right? Where will you think about God if that person is taking your mind space?
Right. So let me be a little
At the same
frank
time,
here.
a bit
Let's
of
say,
testing is also needed, because if you're completely in your bubble, then you won't even know if you're progressing or regressing, right? It's only when you come in contact with those people, you will come to know how much sadhana has actually helped you, right?
oh no.
Little bit, I would say. You have immunity to virus, right? A little bit. But what I'm saying is, take a personal call. We have to do our sadhana to a level where, see, it's like this. When milk comes in contact with water, it becomes diluted, right? But when that same milk, you take it away, keep it aside for a while, you make yogurt out of it, then you churn butter out of it, and then butter can float on top of water and challenge it, that water, you cannot do anything to me now. So we have to become a bit of a butter before we can start exposing, so sadhana is very important in parallel. But I would say if somebody is really troubling you in your mind, it's better to avoid it until you have, reached a certain
become the butter.
sadhana, yeah. Part of at least yogurt you have become, so because milk immediately become contaminated or diluted. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, let's say relatives, right? You cannot avoid them, but then let's say they come stay at your place, or you have to go and stay at their place. So if you lie a bit about that you have some work, and that's fine, right? Okay.
भगवान के इन निमित्त किया गया पाप भी पुण्य, और भगवान के निमित्त नहीं किया पुण्य भी पाप. It's a simple. So that's okay. As long as you're doing it for a higher purpose, it's fine.
Yes. Okay. Understood.
Relative, who is true relative anyway, right? Who are these relatives?
Yeah. Yes.
Somebody, they're not going to go with our afterlife journey anyways, right? So we got to be very careful how to deal with them anyways, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Yes, Pratyusha.
Hello, sir. Hi, everyone. My question is, what I understand is equanimity. Practicing equanimity is practicing karma yoga, that is a karma, which is putting your mind on God while you're doing all kinds of things. So suppose you're doing day-to-day activities at home. If you're listening to some God songs, so is that a karma? Because your mind is there, and while you're engaged in some other.
You need both the things actually. They say, right, when you are fighting a war, you need a defense shield and you need a sword. So defense shield is for you is basically the knowledge that you are gaining, right, through these sessions or by your contemplation. And the sword that you need to cut Maya is the devotion. So when you are listening to bhajans and you are doing that chintan, it is good actually. It is purifying. When you listen to Leelas of God, you think the other day I was listening to Sudama Leela. When you keep on repeating that, it is actually cleansing your mind. So it is good actually. It is a karma because you're connecting to God. You're building those divine sentiments in your mind. So of course it is karma, and it is very it has a huge cleansing effect to your mind for sure. The problem happens when we come back to the world and start doing all the worldly chintan. It's like Kunjar Shauch, what they say, right? Elephant takes a bath, it is clean, but then it puts the dust back on. Right? The other day I was saying there was a friend of mine, they're doing Ganpati Puja, but other days he's having a cocktail party. So we don't know, right? It can neutralize.
So if I change that into listening to, suppose, say your videos, which is all about divine knowledge and doing my work, is that the same as?
Contemplation, yes, it is good on the divine knowledge, right? Divine knowledge is very important. You can listen to Swamiji's lecture. We use that as a reference, right? Swamiji's book only. So this knowledge is actually anything that helps you build that concept is very purifying, because there is nothing more pure than the divine knowledge. Lord Krishna himself has said, right? It is very pure. And when you contemplate on this knowledge with faith, then God makes it a wisdom seated inside us. He'll make it a realization where you have absolutely no doubt about it. So yes, anything that takes your mind to godly and related, anything knowledge related to God or a subject related to God is always good for us. No question about that. Yeah, no doubt about
So
that.
another section was there's likes and dislikes, right? Which is the two sides, like happiness and distress, likes and dislikes. So when we are practicing equanimity, that is karma yoga, like you told about the thorn aspect, like we are removing the bad thorn with the operation. What happens to the thorns, the spatulas and things that we use, tongs and things that we use, we cut the tumors and all this. So this bad thing is removed by good things. So when we have that, isn't it what you meant? Like when we have a bad thought, we remove it by having a good thought, and then replacing it with a good thought. And then once we have that stack of all, like we've learned how to replace it, then we try to practice the equanimity by developing knowledge and devotion through songs and knowledge videos.
True, very true. We beat it with knowledge in our head, right? Our mind will, like a spoiled child, it will throw tantrums, but then we can tame it by knowledge, right? I'm not.
So this likes and dislikes is the ego, right? That we are having.
Likes and dislikes also, we have to look at it in perspective, right? It's again a tantrum of our mind only. It's like things that come your way, you have to accept it with equanimity, right? So that part is there as well. And with knowledge, we do that. That's why I'm saying tomorrow we'll talk about what are the key enablers which would take us, right? Either one thing is you keep working on one thing at a time, or we just water the root, and it's like one leaf at a time, you start watering it. Or second is you water the root of a tree and automatically the leaves will be served. So we'll talk about some of the processes you can build in your life which will automatically take care of all these aspects of your life: equanimity, all the virtues that you need, all mindset, all that stuff will automatically start falling in place if you start building small simple practices in your life. Otherwise, it's like so many things I have to do, right? What should I think about? So we'll talk about that. How do we enable it to simplify it, right? God has simplified this process for us. Yeah. Thank you, Pratisha. Good questions. Yes, Sandhya.
Manisha ji has asked a question. How can we see our day-to-day needs, like we do shopping for our dear ones or family members, or for that matter, our own self? How can we see all of these acts as the service to God? And she has a follow-up, which is, it's just that we have to do a lot of small things and we do go with the flow to be in the so-called social world. So how to not get trapped?
Yeah, so that's a call we have to take, right? Am I exposing myself to the world more than necessary? And that necessary definition you have to tweak over a period of time, right? In fact, we run the risk of exposing ourselves to a lot of kusang if we are unnecessarily socializing, adding too many friends. See, every friend that you add or every relation is like maintaining a factory. How many factories you can run, right? So, but at the same time, all the small things or acts that you have to do, think about it, the big picture about of it, right? At the same time, you are you are endowed with certain people around you to take care of them and to maintain a cordial, harmonious relationship, whatever little it takes, so that your bhakti can continue. Okay, they are not going to create impediments in your life. So if you have that big picture in mind, it's okay to, take care of their by through shopping or by buying them gifts and stuff like that, because the big picture is still clear. I want to take care of them so that, I have a harmonious environment at home, so that, I can do my devotion without any hiccups or without any impediments. But the big goal, we cannot lose sight of that. If we start enjoying that activity and we start adding more and more relationships and start making that as an agenda of our life, then it becomes a problem. But treat it like, one of those things you have to do, keeping that big picture in mind. It's like the same story, right? There was a guy who wanted to marry a girl, and her father said, I cannot, let you marry my daughter because you don't have a good job, stable job, and you don't earn well. Okay, you need to be earning at least a six-figure salary before I can marry my girl to you. So this guy starts working hard, but he's working hard, but the big picture is, okay, I need to marry that girl. That is why I'm working hard. So he's doing his day-to-day job. He's speaking to his boss. He's keeping people happy. He's probably going for happy hours as well. But the big picture is not lost. That I am doing it so that one day I can earn six-figure salary, so that one day I can marry that girl. So same thing. My ultimate aim is to do devotion, but as part of enabling, maybe we have to make a few compromises here and there, and then you keep on optimizing those. Just be careful you're not adding unnecessary socialization to your life and not falling for that trap. That is a personal call. I think each of us can take individually.
There's one more question, request actually from Swati ji. She wants to take a screenshot of one of the slide which has shloka question and answer. If you could just go back to that.
Sure. And please fill out the feedback tracker if you're still there. Shloka question and answer. Okay. That was the first slide, I guess. Swati ji, are you preparing for the Kahoot already? A lot of information, huh? Go ahead. This is the slide. You can take the... Rahul, you must be having, okay, now I got a lot of stuff to go to. Okay, you're going to prepare the quiz. I'm not going to, okay, this time as well. Or Sandhya, whoever wants to, because I want to play a little bit. Not
Maybe
play.
I think Rahul ji also should get to play.
Yes, maybe you can prepare this time. Yes, Rahul, you had a question, and then Keshav ji will come to you. Go ahead, Rahul.
Radhe, Radhe. No question, only I just wanted to sing 2 lines for the devotional segment.
Devotional
Whenever we are
segment, yes,
ready.
we'll get to that. Maybe last question we'll take from Keshav ji. And if you had a question you couldn't ask, we move to the devotional segment at this time, where we do a bit of chanting. You're welcome to stay back, but please put in your questions in the feedback tracker, or even otherwise you can simply say Radhe Radhe. Yes, Keshav ji.
Radhe Radhe. I wanted to add only one thing, like work is done in 3 ways: with body, with mind, and with thought. So we do all only with body and we focus on that. Working with tongue also, like words, 3 ways. So words we always do. The main is with mind, and that is if we focus on meditation to the heart where God is seated. Then he gives clarity of all the shlokas also, which I am getting day by day, even deeper meaning of same shloka. Awful. Not awful, awesome, awesome, awesome. Radhe Radhe.
Very true. So Bhagavad Gita is, it's not a static knowledge. Like we've spoken about this concept that God has put his Chitta Shakti into it. So it is sentient knowledge. You have never understood a shloka in its entirety until you become God realized. So that it's like, taking a dip into the sea, and newer things will come out of it.
And I want to add one thing, like the shloka, like Vaishno Bhutva Pranapan De Mam Ashrita Pranapan Samayukta Pachamyanam Chaturvidham. I had only 2 meanings. Now today I got the 3rd deeper meaning after listening to you. The story you narrated, rice fell from Lakshmi ji's hair and then went in the dibbi and that ant or whatever. So that I was focused during my meditation time. And the deeper meaning I got, I'll share with you later. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Keshav. Thank you so much. Okay, so with that, we move to our devotional segment. Rahul is going to sing. I'll chant a couple of lines. Anybody else who's interested today or still making up their mind? All right, Sheetal ji is going to sing as well. Let's hear from Sheetal ji. Sheetal ji, you wanted to say something? Are you from Dallas, by the way? Is it your?
Radhe Radhe everyone. No,
Oh,
I'm that Sheetal which is from Pune, India.
okay.
Okay, so on the occasion of 10 days festival of Ganesha, which begins today, Ganpati Bappa Moria. शेंद्र लाल चढ़ायो अच्छा गज मुख को, दोंदिल लाल बिराजे सुत गौरी हर को, हाथ लिए गुड़ लड्डू साई सरवर को, महिमा कहे न जाए लागत हूँ पद को, जय देव जय देव। जय जय श्री गणराज विद्या सुखदाता, धन्य तुम्हारो दर्शन मेरा मन रमता, जय देव जय देव। भाव भगत से कोई शरणागत आवे, संतति संपत्ति सब ही भरपूर पावे, ऐसे तुम महाराज मोको अति भावे, गोसावी नंदन निश दिन गुण गावे, जय देव जय देव। जय जय श्री गणराज विद्या सुखदाता, धन्य तुम्हारो दर्शन मेरा मन रमता, जय देव जय। जय जय श्री गणराज विद्या सुखदाता, धन्य तुम्हारो दर्शन मेरा मन रमता, जय देव जय। घालीन लोटांगण वंदीन चरण, डोळ्यानी पाहिन रूप तुझे, प्रेमे अलिंगण आनंद पूजित भावे, ओवाळीन म्हणे नमा। त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव, त्वमेव बंधु सखा त्वमेव, त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव, त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देव। कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रिये वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृति स्वभाव, करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायति समर्पया। अच्युतं केशवं राम नारायणं कृष्ण दामोदरं वासुदेवं, श्रीधरं माधवं गोपिका वल्लभ, जानकी नायकं रामचन्द्रं भज। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे।
Very nice.
Very nice.
Thank you so much for coming on video and on this occasion of Ganesh Chaturthi and singing so beautifully and enthusiastically. Loved it. And if any one of you wants to participate in Seva, do let us know. We have a lot of stuff. You can help us with, helping do some groundwork for Bhagavad Gita, or help prepare quizzes as well. Our quiz master always needs help, or for that matter, a lot of other sevas that are out there as well. So there's a lot of opportunity. Please fill in the feedback tracker if you're interested. But thank you, Sheetalji. Good to see you face to face, and hope you're enjoying the sessions. And I've seen your name. I was thinking you're probably from Dallas, but yeah, good to know from Pune, and you can sing more often. Yes,
Yeah,
Rahul.
it's my pleasure completely. And somewhere I was not able to cope up with the session with all the morning chores when I went to my hometown, but I'm getting back again. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, Rahul, go ahead, please.
Radhe Radhe. This one is from Brajras Madhuri. So it goes. Jai Ganesh, Jai Ganesh, Jai Ganesh Deva. असवर दे दूं पाऊं श्यामा श्याम सेवा. जय गणेश जय गणेश जय गणेश देवा. असवर दे दूं पाऊं श्यामा श्याम सेवा. That's it, Radhe Radhe. I can explain it in English. It says, O Lord Ganesh, I glorify you again and again and beg you to grant me eternal service of my dearest Radha Krishna. Radhe Radhe.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rahul. Loved it. So Ganesh Chaturthi, we are getting to hear so many beautiful bhajans and recitations on Ganesha ji. Thank you. Swati ji, you want to sing something as well?
Yeah, yes, Radhe Radhe. I want to sing on the occasion of Radha Rani's birthday coming near. So I'll sing on her. Okay. हमारो धन राधा 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 राधा, हमारो धन राधा राधा राधा, प्राण धन राधा राधा राधा, जीवन धन राधा राधा राधा। श्री राधे चुकी शरण न एक बाता, हमारो धन राधा राधा राधा। श्री राधे बिनु ब्रह्म श्याम रस आधा, हमारो धन राधा राधा राधा। वत हरि गुण राधा, हमारो धन राधा राधा राधा। श्री राधे चुको रूप ध्यान उर साधा, हमारो धन राधा राधा राधा। श्री राधे जो है माधव माधव राधा, हमारो धन राधा राधा राधा। कृष्ण कहूँ पाछे प्रथम कहूँ राधा, हमारो धन राधा राधा राधा। श्री राधा भजे कृष्ण कृष्ण भजे राधा, हमारो धन राधा राधा राधा। कृपालु धन नाम रूप गुण राधा, हमारो धन राधा राधा राधा। Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Swati ji. Radhe Radhe. Very nice. Did. All right, Amrutavani ji, are you going to sing or Hasmita going to sing? Or both?
Myself today.
Right, go ahead.
I'll sing 4 lines. Ganesha Pancharatna Stotram, it's called. It's in, no, please, no spotlighting.
We want to make you feel nervous.
Oh my God.
Okay, go ahead.
मुदाकरातमोदकं सदा विमुक्तिसाधकं कलाधरावतंसकं विलासिलोकरक्षकं। मुदाकरातमोदकं सदा विमुक्तिसाधकं कलाधरावतंसकं विलासिलोकरक्षकम्। अनायकैकनायकं विनाशिदेवदैत्यकं नटाशुभाशुनाशकं नमामि तं विनायकम्। नमामि तं विनायकम्. Thank you. I just wanted to sing 4 lines.
Very nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very well sung. Beautiful. So Lord
Thank
Ganesha
you.
must be smiling today. Our session, people have done justice to his Chaturthi and birthday. Thank you very much for that. Okay, nobody else? Like I can sing a couple of lines.
Yes, please.
Okay, it's a Radha Krishna bhajan. Beautiful bhajan. Like so many bhajans from Maharaj ji. So I'm going to just try a few lines. ठाकुर युगल किशोर हमारो, चाकर हम पिय प्यारी के। ठाकुर युगल किशोर हमारो, चाकर हम पिय प्यारी के। गुरु सेवा ही धर्म हमारो, दास न हम श्रुति चारी के। गुरु सेवा ही धर्म हमारो, दास न हम श्रुति चारी के। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे. Okay. All right. So hope you had a good session today. Tomorrow we'll continue on our journey. Anybody else who wants to say or sing anything, or we are good for today? Monica, you saying something? You are on mute.
I was trying to remember the lyrics of one of the songs, Ganeshji's songs. But I can make an attempt.
I sang, yeah, if you want to sing, you can go ahead. I sang this one because tomorrow we are going to talk, the process of awakening your soul is to do seva. Right? So this line is very beautiful that Maharaj is written. Guru seva is dharam hamara das na ham shruti chakar ke. So if you go to scriptures, there are tons of rituals, there are tons of stuff that it talks about. But if you simply do seva, that's it. Okay, everything will be taken care of. But you have to have proper faith and you do it in a proper way, then this there cannot be any more potent tool than that, so to say. So we'll talk more about it tomorrow. Great. Anybody else? Monica ji, are you sure you're not going to sing?
No, I can sing.
All right, go ahead. Finish it off. Then I think we have a little bit of time, and then last one, we'll make it the last one for the day.
Okay. तेरा ही नाम पुकारो मैं, साथ तेरा बस चाहूं मैं, तो आदि अंत महिमा तेरी हम पे बरसाए रखना, मेरी बिगड़ी बनाना। जय देव जय देव जय देव जय देव, जय जय जी गणराज विद्या सुखदाता, धन्य तुम्हारो दर्शन मेरा मन रमता। जय देव जय देव। राधे
Very
राधे।
nice. Thank you so much. Thank you. Short and sweet. Loved it. So with that, we come to the end of today's session. And Radhe Radhe, have a wonderful day and a great rest of your evening, and happy Ganesh Chaturthi to all of you. I'll see you tomorrow, same time. Good night, good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.